myself. My name is Manogna. I am pursuing in 9th standard from TTWREIS Girls Bhadrachalam School. My dynamic principal sir name is Mr. M. Devadas sir. My mentors are Mamata ma'am and Rama Devi ma'am. My parents are Krishnaya and Uma Devi. Today I came with a new interesting topic. You already know our planet is filled with many beautiful organisms like plants, animals, birds, also microorganisms. All living organisms need air, water, sunlight, also another process is required for their life. All living organisms are capable for giving birth to their young ones, which are exactly same or somewhat similar to them. Can you tell me what is the process of giving birth to an offspring is called? Yes, this process is known as reproduction. So in this session, we are going to learn about reproduction, and the learning objectives are reproduction definition, types of reproduction, female reproductive system, male reproductive system, fertilization in animals, and finally significance of reproduction. Firstly, we are going to learn about reproduction definition. How can we define the reproduction in simplest words? Let's divide the word itself. The word re means again, production means making or synthesis. So can we define the reproduction is a process of making something again? Absolutely. And what is being made here? Of course, the organisms, right? Now you may say that the newborn babies are not exactly same like parents. Well, so how can we say again? Well, it is not the same organisms, but it is the same species. Example, a neem tree give rise to a neem tree, a wild cat give birth to a kitten. So this is what mean by reproduction. Producing the same species every time is called reproduction. It is the process of producing an offspring that are biologically or genetically similar to the parent organism. Now, reproduction enables and ensures the continuity of species generation after generation. It is the main feature of life on earth. So let's have a detailed overview of reproduction, its types and the modes of reproduction in plants and animals. Types of reproduction. There are basically two types of reproduction, asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. Firstly, we are going to learn about asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction refers to the type of production which only a single organism giving rise to a new individual. It does not involve the fusion of gametes and therefore the offsprings are genetically identical to the parent. The organisms which are produced by asexual reproduction are less diverse in nature. So, this type of reproduction practiced widely by unicellular organisms. The process involves rapid population growth and no mate is required for this process. However, a lack of genetic diversity makes the organisms more susceptible to diseases and nutrition deficiencies. Now, let's learn about asexual mode of reproduction in plants. In plants, baby plants can grow even without formation of a seed called asexual reproduction in plants. Example, vegetative propagation and parthenocopy. But what is vegetative propagation? Vegetative propagation means production of a new plant from vegetative parts like stem, leaf, root is called vegetative propagation. It is of two types. They are natural propagation and artificial propagation. First, let's learn about natural propagation. In natural propagation, a part of the plant body which may be stem, root, leaf and flower gets detached from the body of mother plant. Natural vegetative propagation in leaves. So look here, this is the leaf of bryophyllum. Small plants can grow at the edges of leaves. So in this manner, propagation method occurs in bryophyllum. Natural vegetative propagation by stems. Aerial weak stems like stolones and runners, when they touch the ground, it gives off adventitious roots. When the connection with the parent plant is broken, the stem portion with adventitious roots grows into an independent plant. Some examples of modified stem are stolones. See here, look here, this is the example for stolones. See, this is the mother plant. When it touched the ground, it gives off adventitious roots from the stem portion. And stolones for chrysanthemum and onions is the example for bulbs. And here this part is cut, we sow it in the soil, and this part grows into a modified stem. And another example for tubers is potato. See here, you can see the eyes on the potato. If we cut this region and sow it in the soil, it grows into a new plant. And finally, corms. Corms, for example, colocasia. Here you can see bud. See, cut this region and sow it in the soil. This region grows into an independent plant. So this is how natural vegetative propagation occurs in vegetables. Natural vegetative propagation in stems. Aerial weak stems, like when they touch the ground, it gives off adventitious roots from the knots. Example, sugarcane. So this is about natural propagation. Now let's learn about artificial propagation. In artificial propagation, certain flowering plants having the capacity to develop their body of stomatic body into new independent plant. In artificial propagation, such plants are identified and special techniques are applied to obtain new independent plant. In artificial propagation, there are 4 methods: cutting, layering, grafting, and finally tissue culture. So let's learn about cutting. So cutting is the artificial method in which vegetative propagation stems are developed in the cut portion of existing plant. Example, hibiscus. So look here, if we cut this stem portion, if we sow it in the soil, this stem portion grows into a new plant. So this is called cutting. In this manner, propagation method occurs in vegetative propagation. Now let's learn about layering. So layering is a propagation method by which stems are rooted in the soil while still attached to the organic plant. It can grow individually. So look here, this is the example of layering. This is the chrysanthemum. If this plant, parent plant, bend towards the ground, it gives off adventitious roots. After some time, it's broken the parent plant connection and it grows into a new independent plant. And now let's learn about grafting. So look here, take a look on the screen. So this is called grafting. The stem which attached to the soil is called stalk. The stem without roots is called scion. Now this scion and stalk are combined when wrapped with a polythene cover over it, and after few days it grows into a single one. So this is about grafting. So and the final one is tissue culture. Take a look on the screen please. This is the tissue culture. So cell tissues are collected from the parent plant and these tissues are placed in agar growth medium containing nutrients and oxygens. After some time, these samples are developed into tiny plants, and after the growth of these tiny plants will placed in the compost. So this is how tissue culture takes place, propagation method in vegetative propagation. So this is about vegetative propagation. Now let's learn about another example of asexual reproduction is parthenocarpy. To develop seeds without fertilization is called parthenocarpy. Example, watermelon, grapes and banana. Now let's look into asexual mode of reproduction in animals. Asexual mode of reproduction in animals involves processes such as budding, fragmentation, regeneration and parthenogenesis. So look here, these are the types of sexual reproduction in animals. Fission. In this, the cell splits into two and each cell carrying the copy of the DNA from the parent cell is called binary fission. So take a look on the screen please. So this is the binary fission. Here the parent amoeba splits into two and each cell carrying the copy of the DNA from the parent cell. So this is called binary fission. And second type of fission is called multivision. So in this, the cell splits into two and each cell carrying the copy of the DNA from the parent cell. The cell splits into two or more cells. So take a look on the screen please. So this is the example for multivision. So here the parent cell splits into two or more cells and each cell carrying the copy of the DNA from the parent cell. Example, plasmodium. Now another type of asexual reproduction in animals is budding. So in this, the cell splits, a small bird-like outgrowth remains attached to the organism until it is fully grown. It detaches itself as living as an individual organism. Example, yeast. Look on the screen please. So this is how yeast grows into produces new offspring. And now let's look into fragmentation. So the organisms produced from a single piece of the parent organism is called fragmentation. Example, Spirogyra. Take a look on the screen please. So here each single piece grows into a new individual. So this is how fragmentation takes place in organisms. And the fourth one is regeneration. So in this, the cell splits into several parts and each part grows into a new individual. Example, planaria. So take a look on the screen please. Here the body and the tail and head are split into several parts and each part grows into a new individual. So example, planaria. And the final one is parthenogenesis. Parthenogenesis means it is the process of development of young worms from unfertilized gametes is called parthenogenesis. Example, ants, bees, wasps. So this is about asexual reproduction in plants and animals. Now let's learn about another type of reproduction. So if you keenly observe, every kid has characters taken from the parents. Yes, characters from both mom and dad. Have you ever wondered why this happens? Why do we find random characters in the kids which belonging to the same parents? In simple language, we can say that is because of the sexual reproduction in organisms. So sexual reproduction is a type of reproduction that involves the fusion of male and female gametes. In sexual reproduction, male gamete and female gamete are formed to produce an offspring. So, these gametes are either formed by same individuals or by different individuals of the opposite sex. So, this process is usually slow and complex compared to the asexual reproduction. So, the organisms produced genetically diverse in nature. So, thus they can evolve along with the changing climatic conditions. Humans and many multicellular organisms reproduces as sexual reproduction. And now let's look into sexual mode of reproduction in plants. Sexual reproduction in plants takes place through pollination, in which the pollen grains from anther of a male flower transfer to the stigma to the female flower is called pollination. Example, datura. Now, let's learn about sexual mode of reproduction in animals. Sexual mode of reproduction in animals takes place through fusion of male gamete and female gamete will fertilize and grow in female's body. in sexual reproduction in animals, we need to study first the reproductive systems. It will give us an idea how the gametes are produced and formed and help us the fertilization process better. Now let's learn about reproductive systems. There are two reproductive systems, male reproductive system and female reproductive system. Firstly, let's learn about male reproductive system. So take a look on the screen please. This is the male reproductive system. So here we will begin the male reproductive system with having a look at where the sperms are exactly produced. These sperms are exactly produced from these oval shaped structures called testes. So, well, the pair of testes is called testicles. So, this testes is covered on skin over it is called scrotum. Now, you see short coiled tube on the testes, right? So, this short coiled tube is called epididymis. So, epididymis on either side. Now, this epididymis stores the sperms in short time. Now, this epididymis is connected with long tube-like structure is called vasa differentia. Now, here the sperms are able to travel through the vasa differentia and reaches the ejaculatory duct. Do we know what the ejaculatory duct is called? Yes. Ejaculatory duct forms the seminal vesicles, joins to the vasa differentia and continue as a ejaculatory duct. Now here the seminal vesicles secretes seminal fluid to the sperm because the sperm needs source of energy when it reaches out of the male's body. Now the sperms takes the seminal fluids and reaches the prostate gland. Now this prostate gland produces prostate fluid to the sperm. It also important for the sperm. Now secretion of these glands are completed, it reaches the Copus gland. Now this Copus gland also releases a fluid. Now these three fluids are called seminal plasma and these three fluids along with sperm is called semen. And now this sperm will go through this long tube-like structure is called urethra. So here urethra is not only transports the urine, also it transports the sperm. That's why it is called urinogenital duct. So this is an overview of male reproductive system. Now let's learn about female reproductive system. Let's look here. This is the male reproductive system. We have taken a look at the male reproductive system, right? Now, before moving on the process of fertilization, we need to look the place where this process of fertilization takes place. Yes, I am referring to the female reproductive system. So, female reproductive system includes parts, ovaries, fallopian tubes, vagina and the uterus. So, these are the parts of female reproductive system. Do you remember where we began studying the male reproductive system? Yes, the site of sperm production. Similarly, we will begin learning the production of the egg cell or simply the ovum. So, the journey begins from these oval structures called ovaries. One ovary on either side. And did you notice that the ovaries are connected to these two tube-like structures? But they are not connected directly if we look at it carefully. We find that they are finger-like projections. So, these finger-like projections are very important for receiving the ovum when released from the ovaries. Do they have any special name? Yes, these finger-like projections are called fembrae. The fembrae help to hold the ovum released and also help to sweep it to the tubes present ahead to the uterus. But why does the ovum require the sweeping activity? Can't it travel it out? No, it can't. Unlike the motile sperm, the ovum is non-motile. It cannot move or push it or swept by some other cells. Now, These tube-like structures that we are referring to since a long time also have a scientific name. They are called as fallopian tubes. What do you think will be their importance? Let me guess. Is it that they connect the ovaries to the uterus? Yes, it's definitely one important function, but more important than this, the fact that the fallopian tubes are the site of fertilization. Yes, it is the fallopian tubes where the sperms are able to fertilize the ovum, and here the zygote starts dividing and grows into an embryo. Now, where will this embryo go further? Needless to say, the uterus. We know that the uterus commonly referred to as a site of development of a baby. So, this is about female reproductive system. And I finally conclude, then after this female reproductive system, the ovum cell is released in these fallopian tubes and the sperms are entered from this vagina and reaches the fallopian tubes, and it occurs the fertilization process. But what is fertilization process? Fertilization is the process in which the male nucleus fuses with the female nucleus. So, this is about fertilization. So, I finally conclude reproduction process is very important, maintaining the stability in the ecosystem, and it maintains the balance between the birth rate and also death rate. It is necessary in evolution of species by carrying favorable conditions from one generation to another generation. It also helps in increasing the number of species in the ecosystem. The genes are transmitted to the offspring to the parent to the offspring. So, this leads to the evolution of species. So, I finally thank our Telangana government for conducting these programs, and our beloved Secretary Sir, Mr. M. Ronaldo Sir, and RCO Sir, David Raj Sir, and my dynamic Principal Sir, Mr. M. Devadas Sir, and my mentors, Mamta Ma'am and Ramadevi Ma'am, and all my teachers for supporting me and encouraging me. So, I hope you understand this session and you learn more about reproduction, right? So, thank you.